Well, good evening. I am in fact Jim Pruden, and I'm running for Congress in Florida's District 22, and I'm running against Ted Deutsch. You know, when I started this campaign, I made it clear from the very beginning that I had two objectives. One was that I was going to use my expertise and my resources to help create as much pull-through as possible to win the House of Representatives, and second, to create pull-through for President Trump and get a clean slate in Florida. I heard that the objective in this area was to get a turnout for President Trump of 45% and count on the rest of the state to carry the day for us. Well, I don't agree. We are going to hit the ground with our team, and we're going to pull hard, and we are going to get our president over the line. We're going to beat 50% and carry this state. And we're going to get another House back in the House of Representatives so that we can give our president his second term with unobstructed work. Now, those of you who may or may not know Ted Deutsch, he was very active in the effort to try and get our president out of office. He sat on the Judiciary Committee, and in fact, he made a public announcement in the newspapers 2 months before this telephone call that they use as a sham to try and impeach our president. And so 2 months before that, he had no basis whatsoever, and yet made a public announcement that he would vote to impeach our president. So he, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and his co-conspirators in the deep state, they contrived with the intent to deprive you of your vote for our president. So come November 3rd, I intend to deprive Ted Deutsch of his seat in Congress. Now, originally I thought about talking about all the accomplishments our president's had, but quite frankly, it would take hours for me to go through those accomplishments, which is nothing short of absolutely remarkable when you consider the fact that he got all this done with a ball and chain around his neck called the U.S. Congress. Instead, I'll say that I will stand beside our president and I will support and defend our free market capitalist system, and we will oppose the socialist movement, which is really a communist movement within our Congress. And we will put an end to the tyranny that they bestowed upon our country. Now, how many people are sick and tired of turning on the TV at night and watching the anarchy in the streets, burning our businesses, beating people, taking over, and claiming they're going to defund the police, standing out in the streets and demanding that people get out of their homes because they're going to take them over? Who wants that? Well, when we get a Republican Congress, we're going to push back on this movement. There will be no defund the police movement. And by the way, the Democrat Congress was trying to do an end run on the people of the United States. While we were being distracted with the defund the police movement in the streets and with these local governments, Ted Deutsch co-introduced a bill in Congress to supposedly reform policing. Now, everybody said that it would be a a good idea to generate a database if you have police who are not good actors. If they get terminated in one jurisdiction, they should not be allowed to go to another. And that fraud they've been using to get everybody on the bandwagon to support them. Well, I read that legislation, and in that legislation, if that passed, we no longer would have to worry about the defund the police movement, because that legislation would end policing as we know it. So we'll go up and we will put an end to this. I've worked over the past year with a number of doctors and folks that I represented clinics over the years and administrators. And I've devised a plan that I intend to introduce and push through Congress to reduce health care costs to everybody by approximately 45%. Now that will be achieved through a significant reform of health care insurance, as well as a significant change in the way we do business in the procurement of drugs and medical devices, as well as the way we handle administration of health care claims. We will no longer tolerate having insurance companies or the government stand between us and our doctors and our medical care. Now, next to the socialist movement, the next greatest threat that we have to our country is the national debt. I can't tell you how significant it is right now. We're on the fast track to bankruptcy. Therefore, when I go to Congress, I will get together with the other leadership who have been pushing for a balanced budget mandate, and we will get a balanced budget mandate. And we will not allow our country to go bankrupt, because that's what the socialists want. They can acquire change in our political and economic and social structure through two means. Either one, through anarchy, which they've been trying for the last 60 days, or second, to bankrupt the United States. And neither we will stand for when we take over the House. I will stand by our President in his efforts to continue to secure our borders. I will support a zero tolerance on illegal immigration and border jumping. And I will support our President's efforts in imposing a new immigration plan that is based upon merit and close screening of candidates who want to come to our country. As far as our Second Amendment rights goes, our President stands strong on the Second Amendment, and I will stand with him on that. No one should be deceived by this mantra of taking away firearms as a means of curbing violence. And if anybody challenges you on that, you remind them of September 11, 2001, we had the greatest mass murder in the history of the United States, and not a single shot was fired. Therefore, there is nobody who's ever been able to put forth any evidence to show that if we confiscate firearms, it would make any material difference in murder or mass murder. And I will stand by our President in his efforts to help out and secure the Jewish community. That includes opposing the BDS movement and supporting Israel and recognizing and continuing to recognize their rights to Western Bank settlements, their rights to the strategic Golan Heights, and we will continue to defund UNRWA and those organizations that support terrorists. Now, another provision that Ted Coit supported last summer was when the Republican Congress members attempted to advance legislation called the Born Alive Survivors Protection Act. That act provided that if a child is born alive as a consequence of an attempted or failed abortion attempt, that the doctor had a responsibility to protect that child and give it the same level of care as any other human being. The Democrat Congress, including Ted Deutsch, voted that act down. I intend as one of my first acts, if I go to Congress, if it's not otherwise done, to reintroduce the Born Alive Survivors Protection Act and get that passed. Now, our president has done a lot for our country. He's reduced the unemployment to historical levels for our members of the black community. He's reduced the unemployment for our women in the community, and he's reduced unemployment in general, all before this COVID arrived on our shores, which we all find very suspicious as it came out of Wuhan, and the NIH under the Obama administration had funneled money through a third party who gave funding to the Wuhan lab to do COVID experiments. I have yet to see any evidence that to completely eliminate the prospect that this dreaded disease escaped from that lab. I think when we go up there, we should have extensive investigation to determine the origin of that. Our president, in helping out our community, had the vision to pass opportunity zones. And I have some plans that I want to introduce to enhance the viability of the opportunity zones, which provided an incentive to infuse investment in those communities and provide our underserved communities with greater opportunity. I want to enhance that and recognize that folks in the lower income brackets deserve a break in it. They deserve it to be directed not through the federal government, because the federal government with the Democrat programs have the underserved community anchored in a lifestyle that is substandard. Therefore, I will recommend that individuals making $100,000 or less will have tax-free income after their 40 hours of work. Anybody who's ever taken a paycheck knows that overtime pay is taxed at a greater level than the regular tax. And when you look at your paycheck, you say, why in the world did I bother? And that should not be for our lower income citizens. They deserve an opportunity to increase their capital worth and advance through economic class advancement. Now, since the election, this is the first large crowd that I've been in front of, and I would like to say thank you very much for supporting me in the election. Thank you to the voters, thank you to the donors, and thank you to the volunteers for supporting me. It is my pleasure tonight to accept the nomination as your Republican representative for U.S. House of Representatives representing District 22. I accept. If anybody wants to find out more about our campaign, you can find us at jimprudenforcongress.com. That's jimprudenforcongress.com. Thank you.